Hello and welcome to Film du Siècle, the film and media channel focused on all things 90s and 2000s. This week, Seb and Olly will be discussing Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
Hello and welcome back to Film du Siècle, the film and movie discussion discussion channel where we talk about all things 1990s to 2000s. And this week we've got the penultimate, and I'm going to say penultimate, entry in the Harry Potter list because technically it's true. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, which introduces Jim Broadbent, who is as broad as he is bent. I don't know.
Where are you going with this?
I don't know. I just wanted to say that Jim Broadbent was in this movie.
Yeah, he's good in it.
Yeah, I like Jim Broadbent. He's good in everything. Game of Thrones.
Before we get started, obviously, we don't support J.K. Rowling and her positions on trans people.
In fact, I think we've got a more creative way to express our disagreement with her today. So, enjoy these memes.
While I once again reiterate that we do not support her or her positions, don't give her money, fuck J.K. Rowling, trans rights are human rights.
And also the best thing about Harry Potter is probably the movies. I know that's a bit of a controversial take, but I've come to that view through rewatching them. Yeah, I think the movies are definitely, on the whole, better than the books. I don't know if it's because they're more succinct or they keep the important stuff.
Half-Blood Prince is the only book I've read more than once. So,
what, in history or in Harry Potter?
Harry Potter.
I was going to say.
Also in history.
Aww.
I've read a lot of books, but I've only read them once.
What was appealing about that one, then?
I don't know. I think I was getting impatient for the last one.
So if you kept reading it, then it would turn up a bit quicker.
Well, it was something to do to pass the time.
Yeah, I suppose. As the mid-2000s, there wasn't much going on in the world, I suppose. So yeah, read Half-Blood Prince again. I actually really like this one, from if memory serves me right. I quite like what they did with Malfoy in this one. I feel like it was setting up for stuff that they didn't do with him in the last entry, but I did like what they did with Malfoy in this. I like what it did with Harry in this, actually, because he's a bit less aggressive than he was in the last one, but a lot more angsty, because obviously he's got more to be angsty about. I like his whole, the whole send-off with Dumbledore, where him and Harry are hunting for the Horcruxes, and there's loads of exposition about the history of Voldemort. There's a lot that appeals to me about this one, and of course you've got overly attached girlfriend, who is apparently a character in this. Was that even much of a thing in the books? Because I don't remember it being in the books.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, I remember. I had to think who you were talking about for a minute.
Yeah. Is it... I'm not being flippant, and I'll edit this out if I'm completely wrong, but wasn't that character black in the earlier movies?
I don't know, to be honest.
I'll look that up. If I'm wrong, then I will be crucified. But I could have sworn they completely...
I don't believe he's been named in the movies so far. Oh.
Yeah, but the character it was in the books was portrayed by someone who was previously black in the movies, I believe.
I see.
So I don't know whether they realised the mistake halfway through making the movie and thought, okay, we can't go back and change that, so we may as well just make this a completely new unnamed character now. Imagine that. Imagine forgetting your characters halfway through making the movie. It's like, no, I'm playing that person. Right, if you're playing that person, then why have we cast this person? Okay, make them a new person.
Yeah.
What were your memories of this movie?
I don't have that many, to be honest.
That would be for years of hard drugs and abuse.
Well, yeah. But, I saw it, once in the cinema with my dad.
Uh-huh.
Spoilers, by the way, for Harry Potter.
What, spoilers for your relationship with your father?
No, for Harry Potter and the Half.
Spoiler alert, we've known each other for many years now.
The film that we are talking about for this video.
I was going to say. I wanted to find out myself how Ollie's life went. But yeah, I went to see this with a few friends. So I remember seeing it with a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I saw it a couple of other times. It was around the time Avatar was out, I think. It's one of those
Yeah.
late 2000s movies, but something made me keep coming back. I think it's one of the better movies from my memory. Now, we could watch this and have a completely separate, different interpretation, but this was the second movie that David Yates did. Again, I feel like his style of directing fits in really well with the later movies and the ongoing story there.
I was saying, I went to see it with my dad, and I remember him remarking, "Oh, I wasn't expecting Dumbledore to bite the dust."
He didn't do it on the way out of the cinema.
No, he said it quietly to me in the cinema as the credits rolled.
I was going to say, that could have been bad.
I mean, I had that spoiled for me in the book, although to be fair, I had asked.
Oh, I see. So
Or to be fair, I did ask the person in question if anyone dies in this book.
What? Just expecting a yes or no answer?
Well, no, and after the yes, I did ask who died.
Oh, I see. So you were asking for it, literally.
Yeah.
You're so impatient. Just read the book.
I did not yet appreciate the value of the first experience, going in sight unseen.
Exactly, because you don't get the full emotional response from reading a synopsis to, well, consuming the media, do you?
No, reading a synopsis doesn't count. Ironically, reading a synopsis was how I first experienced the plot of Metal Gear Solid 4.
God, that must have sounded bonkers. Yeah. Because it's the sort of thing that you want to experience, because the only way you'll get any kind of emotional payoff
If you see it summed up and written down, it's bollocks.
Exactly.
I mean, if you play a Metal Gear Solid game, like, in full, it's also bollocks, but it's slowly paced bollocks that you might not notice is bollocks.
Yeah, because, I don't know, if you watch, for example, Jurassic Park, it's literally, they go to an island, bad stuff happens, they decide to leave the island.
Yeah.
That's basically like a bad shopping trip, but with dinosaurs.
Yep.
Okay, let's experience the blood of halves again. But before we do, what did you think of the titular Half-Blood Prince in this one? Because this is the only one where Snape is really as unlikable as he's meant to be, I think.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he's portrayed in a more sympathetic light in the movies than he is in the books. And that's obviously because Alan Rickman knew beforehand what the whole deal was with Snape.
I think that was by design to sell the twist, which is that Snape is the Half-Blood Prince. And that is quite an ironic twist, given that his book has helped Harry so much.
Exactly! I like how all of Harry's best teachers are people who are actively trying not to help him.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant.
The one time Snape actually did actively try to help him, he kicked him out of the class as soon as he did something he didn't like. So...
Exactly! Okay, we need a new teacher for Harry to be his brilliant mentor figure. Crackhead. Yeah, get the crackhead. Oh, that crackhead really helped me with my spells. Well, it wasn't meant to.
No, it would be potions, wouldn't it?
Yeah, potions. Wait, where's all our stocks gone? I don't know.
Professor Crackhead was giving me extra credit.
Do they have drugs in Harry Potter?
They must do.
Yeah, I mean...
There must be some freaky, like wizard stuff that gives you...
Actually, I think there was a scene in this one where, for some reason, Harry and Ron are just standing there with, like, really spaced-out expressions, and then McGonagall has a go at them for it. Like, oh, he looks like he's enjoying himself too much. So, is it implied that they dropped acid, or consumed mushrooms or something?
I don't think that's the implication.
What do you think the implication is? Because I've got no idea.
I don't think there is an implication.
You just think it's weirdness for weirdness' sake, like these movies often do?
I think it's McGonagall sounding like a teacher.
Okay. Alright, well, we'll rewatch the scene and see what we think.
Yeah.
So, on that note, we will see you shortly with our thoughts on the movie.
See you after the credits roll.
Cool, bye. And we have returned, having watched Harry Potter and The Prince of Half-Blood. So, Ollie, what did you think of that movie?
Was quite good. I particularly liked the use of transitions in this one.
Yeah, I was geeking out over it. That was brilliant.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good foreshadowing in this one too.
Yeah, like, I don't know, when Malfoy says something like, oh, you'll find me dead in the top of the observatory before I do caught spending another year here. I can't remember what he says exactly, but he mentions the astronomy tower at the beginning of the movie on the train.
Yep.
I mean, Ollie, it's a good thing that Fenrir Greyback, as a fictional supernatural creature, can't hear loud rustling noises on a roof right next to him.
Yeah, yeah. Or mistakes it for the wind.
Very convenient. Yes, it's just the wind talking loudly about how they're eavesdropping on us.
The vanishing cabinet thing is set up really well. Like, I mean,
I love those
obviously,
scenes.
if you read the book before you saw the film, you know what happens,
Yeah, because you're sort of in on it for the whole thing, aren't you?
but even if not, I think you're given enough information to sort of figure out.
Yeah, like with putting the apple in and then there's a bite out of it, and then a bird comes in and out, and it's very Nolan. I like those scenes because it's very much like something from The Prestige.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I don't know, it's the shooting style, it's the atmosphere, the way Malfoy's looking at it.
The
with
bit where they
curiosity.
apparate to that cave over the sea reminded me a bit of Pirates of the Caribbean. But other than that,
Yes, I know exactly what you mean, and I like how it just becomes full Hollywood swashbuckler in the end of the movie.
well, there aren't many swashes buckled. But
No, although Harry does get assaulted by several golems.
yeah, well, zombies basically.
Zombies, yeah. I quite like this one because it does feel like the end of an era. And we were talking about the symbolism when, what's her name, Helena Bonham Carter was destroying the Great Hall and all the cutlery, and then they set fire to Hagrid's house. All of that.
Yeah, that's a good symbolism for the end of Hogwarts as the main setting.
And as a sanctuary as well.
Yeah, and of course, in universe, there isn't really much point to that because we've seen in this movie that you can put structural devastation right in minutes, which is kind of why the burning down the Burrow struck me as a bit of an odd scene because they're acting like they've lost something.
It wasn't even in the book.
No, I don't believe it was. But they're acting like they've lost something and it's tragic. It's like, no, you can magic that back together in like a couple of minutes.
I mean, did no obscure character die around this time period?
No, I don't think so.
I remember there being this weird sort of thing where they're reading a newspaper and they note that, what was his name? Stanley Shunpike, the bus conductor from the third movie, has joined the Death Eaters. And they're like, oh, well, if he can, I guess anybody can.
Yeah, they'll take anyone.
Imagine him just wanting to do evil things. I can't. He just seemed like a guy doing his job.
Well, I think we're supposed to take it that he was coerced. Or that otherwise perfectly nice seeming people can be neo-Nazi monsters.
Yeah, that's true. I like how they establish Malfoy in this one. They keep coming back to him. Like, you'll have a scene where it pans around the edge of the school, and then it passes by Malfoy looking out broodingly, and then I also like before the whole fateful scene in the observatory tower, when you see Malfoy slipping out, and he slips past, like, some kids who are, like, snogging and playing games and stuff, and, you know, this is him leaving Hogwarts, and he is literally leaving through the door. And I just love it when movies do this kind of thing. Symbolism and the juxtaposition, it's so good.
Yep.
And also the use of soundtrack is really good because it's used more sparingly in this one than it is historically, because you do get the old John Williams score coming in, like when they're like, oh wow, Harry's here. That scene, and that's kind of nice.
But then there's that fight scene in the bathroom with no soundtrack at all.
That's what I was thinking of. There was no soundtrack at all, and I think if you had some sort of epic music, it would have ruined the moment, because at the end of the day, it's just a confused kid being attacked by an angry kid in the toilets. It's not epic, it's not like this Battle of the Ages, it's tragic, and they capture the moment really well.
The soundtrack wouldn't really have worked with the scene.
Yeah, because they don't really... The two characters, although they're at each other's necks, like, to various degrees of seriousness throughout the movies, this is the first time they've really seriously come to blows, and Malfoy was definitely not into it. He
Yeah,
did not. He was not in a mood to fight Harry, and I think that's what makes that scene so brilliant because it subverts what you expect their conflict to be.
yeah. And well,
Like Harry defeating him isn't this huge triumphant moment; it's him screwing up.
yeah, you really get a sense that Malfoy is trapped, and he tries to, like, he's telling everyone he was chosen and this is his moment. He's trying to convince himself of that, and you really get a sense of that. That he's trapped and trying to convince himself that he's not, and that this is a good thing.
Exactly, and they really set him up. Well, I say they, I mean J.K. Rowling. This character is set up for a redemption arc, but when you look at the next one, spoiler alert, it's one of those yes but actually no situations because he
Yeah.
doesn't really get a redemption. He just sort of does a few good things and stays out of a fight.
Well, I don't think he even does a few good things.
Well, he saves Harry's life by pretending he didn't recognise him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that's literally it. The rest of the time, he just decides
I think
not
there
to
was
get
going to
involved.
be a scene where he threw Harry his wand when he was
Yes!
to be alive, but they cut it.
Do you know what? I know it wasn't in the books, but I wish they kept that because that would have been an improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been good.
I mean, the Malfoys are still self-serving, amoral monsters, but
You know, this one's got limits.
yeah. It's like how the Joker wouldn't side with the Red Skull because
That's
he's a
right.
Nazi.
But I actually really like that comic panel because it's like, what? You're a Nazi? Oh, I'm not going to work with you then. But he's wearing a giant swastika on his shirt. Like, how do you not know?
Maybe he thought it was a joke.
What, that he's just being some sort of like edgy college kid or something?
That is how they get you.
Yeah, that is how they get you. It's sad but true.
Yeah.
Speaking of people getting people, I kind of liked the beginning scene where they go into the Ramsack's house and find Slughorn.
Yeah.
Who, incidentally, I didn't imagine looked anything like Jim Broadbent. I imagine he looked more like Slugworth from the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie.
Well,
Like, he was just this dour, miserable-looking man who actually had a bit of a heart of gold deep down.
I used to imagine books like in a cartoon format.
Yeah,
And
I did sometimes. It was very mixed.
go-to heavy-set oldish man is 2D TV's John Prescott.
So, you imagined he was John Prescott?
Yeah. I also imagined Uncle Vernon was 2D TV's John Prescott when I first had the book read to me.
Double Prescott. This is what the millennials watching. This is what you missed up on growing up in the 90s and 2000s. Like, if you're like a Zoomer, that's a better term, Zoomer, then you won't have experienced that. You know, you will not have had 3D Space Pinball or Minesweeper or Windows 95 Paint. These things will be alien concepts to you. You will have had the Overwatch
versions of all of those things.
Yeah, you will have had the Overwatch and the actually, I like Among Us. Yeah, the newspaper transition with Malfoy was really good as well. When you've got the sinister music in the alleyway, you know, when they're burning the newspaper to keep warm because apparently the burrow doesn't have central heating, even though they're wizards who can magic up heat. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just wanted to burn a newspaper for no good reason. I don't know. But anyway, Malfoy is in the embers again, symbolic. And then sinister music playing in the alleyway. You know that this links to him somehow.
And when Dumbledore's giving his speech at the beginning, and he talks about the students being their greatest weapon at the end of the day, and the camera focuses on Malfoy for a good 5 seconds.
Yes, he looks so guilty, and that's such a good scene. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I just really love a lot of the cinematography of this movie. The colour palette at the joke shop, when, you know, you've got all the happy stuff on the inside.
There's a good contrast.
And also you have the call back to Umbridge with the thing that does the Umbridge dialogue. And then outside you've got the bright shop and everything else is grey and wrecked.
Yeah.
Although, let's face it, the Death Eaters are shit at committing acts of terrorism because they disguised themselves before they committed the act.
Yeah.
Muggles are going to assume it was a freak accident.
Yeah.
Great, have you got out the word that the Death Eaters are in business and are going to kill lots of people? Well, no, we disguised ourselves. Well, we didn't want to be recognised. You idiot, that's the point, getting recognised for committing acts of terror. in order to spread terror. Otherwise, it's just acts of espionage. Well, we really wrecked the pedestrian footbridge over the Thames. Oh yeah, that will help with our war effort, won't it?
It didn't seem to hinder them that much, though.
No. Ha. The bridge goes twist.
If Timothy Spall was coordinating that attack, then the whole Muggle world would know about it because he's the only competent Death Eater.
Well, to be honest, if he was coordinating that attack, I don't think there would be much of the UK left to terrorise. He's the only competent villain in these movies.
Well, he still ends up just at the beck and call of Alan Rickman.
Yeah, he does.
Just like Sweeney Todd.
Oh, I like the reveal of Snape because they're talking about this person like, oh, I can't believe he's helping us. Are we sure we can trust him? And then there's a man reading a newspaper, flips down, it's Snape.
Yeah.
They didn't have to leave us in suspense. They could have just said, oh, we're meeting Snape. But no, they had to keep the suspense because I think if you've not read the books, this is your first inkling that he's probably not on the good side.
Yeah. No, that's how the book opened. That was the first. That was the prologue.
Was it? Okay, so it introduces the concept straight away with no suspense.
Well, no, they do the whole we can't trust him and do the whole play the pronoun game without mentioning his name.
Ironic considering it's J.K. Rowling.
But and then there's the reveal when he opens the door.
It would be funny if they kept doing that even after it was revealed.
Yeah.
Are you sure he wants a cup of tea? You can say my name, I've been here for an hour. I'm sure he'll do it. Yes, I will, just ask me, I'm right here. That'd be a good sketch. The pronoun game outlasts its welcome.
Yeah. The acting is more or less consistent with the rest of the series, I would think.
You said something. You said that Michael Gambon, in your opinion,
captures... Yeah.
Sorry, say what you told me.
I said Michael Gambon in this film is as Dumbledore as he ever gets.
Yeah, because I feel like he had to grow into the role a bit, because he clearly... I mean, he said in interviews that he didn't read the books or know much about the source material. He just did it because Harry Potter equals stonks if you're a British actor.
Yeah.
But... or is he Irish? I don't know, I'll look it up. But anyway...
I believe he's Irish.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I digress. But he clearly understood the role better and better as the movies went on because he stopped being an angry little man and started being Dumbledore.
Yeah.
I mean, this Dumbledore wouldn't get so angry over, like, the Goblet of Fire.
No, he'd ask calmly if Harry put his name in the Goblet of Fire.
Oh, yeah, like he did in the book. But can we talk about how good the juxtaposition of the poster when we first see Dumbledore, add a little magic to your life, was at the train station?
Yeah, that's very good set design.
Yeah, like, I think the letters are covered up so it says something like, he's magic or something like that. And, I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with that opening scene. I kind of like the intro with the leaning heavily into the political subtext thing that David Yates always does, with the press taking pictures and Dumbledore pulling him towards him like, yeah, you're in my grip, Harry, I'm protecting you. And then it cuts to him doing the whole train surfing thing, I guess, where he picks up the girl in the cafe.
Yeah.
There's several reasons why that scene is so dumb, but so good. Because, I mean, him picking up the girl's weird, considering the rest of the movie is focusing on his romantic attraction to Ginny, yet he's picking up this random girl who he doesn't know, and also him leaving behind the newspaper.
I mean,
for anyone to find.
He leaves behind the magic newspaper in a Muggle cafe. That's gonna be a headache for Fudge, isn't it?
Oh my god, this newspaper's moving. I'm gonna post it on Instagram. Now everybody knows. But yeah, Harry is a lot more promiscuous in the movies than he is in the books, because he's also like, oh yeah, that girl fancies me when Hermione points it out.
Yeah, Romilda Vane is like, but I am the chosen one.
That was funny. That did get a laugh out of me, I must admit. And I do wish that Harry was a bit more like that in the movies sometimes, because he has quite a lot of sass in the books. Or more so than in the movies, anyway.
I'm not sure. I can't really remember.
I don't know. I seem to remember one where, I don't know, Snape questions him over something, and he says, "What is it, Potter?" And he says, "Yes," or something like that. And he says, "Yes, sir." And he says, "Oh no, there's no need to call me sir."
Yeah.
I remember that. I don't remember what the scene was, but I remember that happening.
I remember the scene. Snape was in his first Defense Against the Dark Arts lesson. He was trying to teach them non-verbal spells, but Harry repelled him verbally.
Yeah.
He was admonishing him for that, and that's when it happened.
Ah, I see. Brilliant. I wish they kept that in, to be fair. That would have been fun. I kind of like how he went through a sass phase, and also, can we talk about how utterly hilarious seeing Daniel Radcliffe doing the whole Felix Potter thing is?
Yeah, it is pretty funny.
It would be funny if he just stayed like that, or if it was some sort of placebo effect.
Yeah.
Also, they have to make liquid death in that scene.
The draft of living death, it's a sleeping potion.
Oh, right, so it's just got a colourful name.
Yeah, it's a powerful sleeping potion. This is established in book 1 and a deleted scene in film 1.
I see. So he's not teaching them to make deadly weapons that could kill a lot of people.
No, not yet anyway.
Next week we'll learn to make weapons-grade plutonium. I like the book transition because where you've got the colouring of the Half-Blood Prince book and the font work on it shining, and then it transitions to Tom Riddle's diary in the hands of Dumbledore. It's again, we can't say enough nice things about the transitions in this movie.
Yeah, it's very well edited.
Yeah, I mean,
visually
honestly,
very well put together.
I mean, we're going to come to this a bit more later when we talk about to what extent we liked it, but I think this is probably my favourite of the movies.
I don't know about that, but it's a good one.
From a technical standpoint, at least. I also like it when Harry Potter occasionally does horror tropes.
Yeah, well, like with the floating girl with the curse.
That was like something that could be from a trailer of a horror movie. That was so good, where she's just screaming in midair and being tossed about like a ragdoll. That was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's... And also this movie really goes out of your way to remind you that Malfoy is a person who exists. Like when he's on the Marauders map. It's very good at showing, not telling. There's not real... Although, having said that, yeah, we could have done with the exposition kid to set us straight on a few things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what these Death Eaters' deal is. You know, why are they bad? Maybe the exposition kid should explain.
Maybe. We are certainly poorer for his absence.
Ollie, how well did the film achieve its goals, and what were they?
Same as ever. Goals were to bring the story Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince to life and make a lot of money, and I believe it did both rather well.
Yeah, you can kind of give the same answer for all of them, to be honest.
The faithfulness of the adaptations was surprisingly consistent across the board. I mean, there were changes here and there.
I'd argue that it's mostly changes for the better, although... Is it Yvonne Lynch who plays Luna Lovegood? I seem to remember reading something where she tried to talk the filmmakers into doing a scene for Dumbledore's funeral, and they didn't end up doing it for, well, they claimed budgetary reasons. In fairness, I don't know how it would have flowed well, because the ending scene flowed quite seamlessly, but I think she had a point.
Yeah, perhaps. Ivana Lynch, I think.
Yeah, Ivana Lynch. I knew it was something like that. I've only just watched the movie, Ollie.
Yeah.
Which is a movie that I've seen many times before in the distant past. It had rewatch value, I'd say, which is always good for one of these movies. It's not one that you just watch once, it's one that you can probably put on its own as well. Like, if it was on the TV, you wouldn't not watch it just because you're not doing a marathon.
Yeah, true.
Oh, by the way, I asked earlier, was it Ron's love interest, Lavender Brown, who was initially black in the earlier movies but was later changed to a white actress, and turns out that was indeed the case, I remembered correctly. Funnily enough, she was played by two different actresses in the earlier movies, both black, of course, and then the funny thing is the official explanation that was given, and this is the wording, it's terrible wording, I don't think it's meant in the spirit that it comes across, is... In the movie version of Harry Potter, Lavender Brown was initially black, but later changed to a white actress in order to play Ron Weasley's girlfriend.
Oh my god.
That is the worst possible wording! In order to... Oh my god!
I mean, is there any reason the change was necessary?
No.
Oh,
This is so bad. Sorry, it's not a laughing matter, really, but, you know,
whoever wrote that passage
should not write passages.
yeah.
Yeah, this movie did it for me on the whole. And it did at the time. It didn't exactly... It did all the big emotional scenes properly. The acting was good. It kept the hype going for the next two. And what I like about the last four movies, including this one, are that they're very consistent in their style because obviously it's the same director. And I feel like at this point, when it's the end game of the Potter series, you've got to keep that consistency, and it does that.
Yeah, I think so.
And it was kind of entering that era of the MCU where you've got an ongoing story where you don't have to wait long for the next part of the story. The turnaround of the Potter movies was quite impressive considering what a huge feat they were.
Wasn't it like 2 or 3 years to the one?
If that, I think the later ones were even more. I don't know if they did a back-to-back thing with Deathly Hallows, filming-wise.
I know that Philosopher's Stone and Chamber of Secrets came out almost exactly a year between them.
I don't know how they did it in that short amount of time. It's incredible, really.
Uh,
You know, I hope it didn't take out too much of a strain on people because I don't know how they did it. I mean, the kids had to do their education. Those movies are technological feats. You know, there's all practical effects, all of this stuff. Practical effects for the most part. There is the CGI eggs during the breakfast scene because apparently using real eggs is bad. I don't know. I theorised that perhaps it was a vegan production and that's why they CGI'd the eggs. I mean, you pointed out the jelly as evidence that it wasn't, but I'm sure there's vegan jelly. There must be. They can do wonders these days.
yeah, but they couldn't then.
Did the movie, Ollie, exceed your expectations?
It did for the visual cohesion of it, the editing basically.
Yeah,
Transitions, the transitions were good. The way the scenes are laid out is very good.
Well,
I notice more stuff like that now.
yeah, and you can the more you know, the more you can appreciate the technical side of things. I feel like this is a movie that a filmmaker would get a kick out of watching and seeing how they do different techniques. Because I know the techniques, but I don't always know the proper words for them, if that makes sense. I've kind of got intermediate knowledge in that regard.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, call me deloused, because I can't find many nits to pick with this one.
Huh.
I suppose the worst thing you could say about this movie is that Lavender Brown's a bit annoying, but I think that's very much the point.
Yeah,
That's very much the objective that they were striving for, so...
We're meant to feel about her, like, as annoyed as Ron is eventually.
Yeah. I liked that try-hard sort of antagonist guy who was lusting after Hermione.
Cormac.
Yeah, Cormac, that's the one. He reminded me a bit of Spider-Man 3... what's his name? Venom. In that.
Yeah, Eddie Brock.
Eddie Brock, that's the name. He reminded me of Eddie Brock. And also, that's another thing. I said the pacing of this movie reminds me of the pacing of Spider-Man 3.
Yes, that was what you said.
Yeah, because Spider-Man 3 gets a lot of stick for cramming in so much in such a short amount of time, because obviously there was a lot of studio pressure to feature Venom in the movie, which I don't think was originally planned. But, having said that, the pacing is remarkable in Spider-Man 3, considering how much had to be fit in.
I mean, yeah, Spider-Man 3 gets a bad reputation, but it's not as bad as people say it is.
Oh, absolutely not, and the things that people laugh off...
I'm sure we'll get to that.
Oh, yeah, I really can't wait to see the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. What's the plural?
Yeah.
Spider-Man?
Spider-Man.
Yeah, does whatever a spider can. Yeah, the movie exceeded my expectations. I didn't realise it was this well made until I watched it. I remember liking it, but honestly, I think I prefer this to all the others I've watched, from a technical standpoint at the very least.
There is a lot to appreciate.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I can't wait to see if there's any small details that we missed with the Hallowses, which that sounds like something that Gollum would say.
The Hallowses.
They're terrible. They're tricksy.
One of which is a ring, so...
Oh, yeah, he'd be into that, wouldn't he? I always thought he looked a bit like the Crazy Frog.
For some reason, one of my favourite shots on YouTube is Pros ED, and he's going like he's doing a Gollum impression.
Oh, I
A
love
Gollum
Pros
impression.
AD.
Yeah, and I don't know how you pronounce that channel name, so sorry if I
I
butchered
always
it.
say Pros AD as well, so.
Yeah, yeah, precious, my precious. Sorry, frog in my throat. Anyway, I'm very fond of that ring.
I love it.
I didn't do it as well as he did, but you
Well,
know,
who does? I mean,
it was a very
he's
funny
really good
joke.
with his voices.
Yeah, it was a very funny joke.
I like his skit about complicated card games.
Yeah.
The cheese wheel and stuff like that. It is like that.
Yeah.
And now the cheese tasting phase.
Anyway, Harry Potter.
Yeah. Yeah, it exceeded my expectations. I don't think there's much more I can say.
Yeah, what's the next question then?
Yeah, is there an element in the film that particularly appeals? Again, I feel like we've answered this.
Yeah, the editing, the soundtrack for me, I'm always a sucker for a good soundtrack.
It's very ambient soundtrack. You know, there's nothing that sticks out and is really super iconic, but it blends into the movie well.
Yeah. It's
It does its job. It doesn't go out of its way to be flashy or bombastic.
You don't feel any of the runtime as well. Like the film flows like water.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? Actually, because I wasn't.
It may just also
watch.
be because I'm farming for tokens in Yakuza Like a Dragon in the background while I was watching it. But
okay, fair enough.
Well, no, I wasn't actually doing anything. There's this slot machine minigame for tokens which you can farm stat boost with. You can just set it to auto and let it run.
Nice. I've still got to play that game, and you got it me for Christmas. I'm going to get around to it.
No, I got you Yakuza 0, but yes, you should definitely play that one. It's a better one.
Yeah, I assume that it's chronologically the first of a name like that.
Yeah, it's a prequel.
Oh, cool. Good, so I'm not missing out on any of the narrative. Brilliant. Yeah, I feel like we've answered this. There is an element particularly appealed, and that's largely the cinematography, but also I think the acting we can draw attention to. The kids are as good as they always are. They're evergreen in terms of their performances.
Yeah, they've really grown into the parts. Well, they grew into the parts several movies ago.
Not much Neville in this one, though.
Was there any Neville? I don't remember seeing. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the background and said one or two things, and that was literally it. He had no contribution to the plot, whereas at least Luna was somebody for Harry to accompany to the ball and somebody to rescue Harry. She was more set dressing than an active part of the plot in this one, and the same can be said about... Because it's weird, because in the last one they sort of make them honorary members of the gang, as it were, because of the whole Dumbledore's army thing.
Yeah.
And then now they're sort of relegated to being in the background again. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I don't know where you would cram them in, to be honest, because I don't remember them doing much in the books either.
No, that is basic. Like, the films are very faithful to the book's narrative, so if they weren't a big part in the book, they're not going to be a big part in the film.
Yeah, that's fair.
With the exception of the exposition kid.
Oh my god, he should be in everything. I mean, could you imagine him in Jurassic Park? They're cloning dinosaurs, and the moral ramifications are pretty horrifying to think about. They could break out and kill a lot of people, besides which is it even in our place to do that?
Yeah.
Oh no, the T-Rex has broken out and now it's eating people. This is a terrible day for humanity. And now I'm being bitten in half. I love him. I hope that the actor who played him has gone on to do bigger things because he deserves it. Yeah, show don't tell. That's how it is, and that's how it is with the Lynch movies. Actually, not the Lynch. What's his name? Sorry, I was thinking of both David Lynch and Yvonne Lynch at the same time, so I had the Lynch in my head. Whereas it's actually... Who made these movies? David Yates directed them. Yeah. That's very much his style.
Yeah.
How does the film stack up today?
Well enough. I mean, it's getting on to the later end of the series. the CGI has evolved to the point that it's good enough to warrant its use, I think.
Yeah, none of it looks false in this one. It's definitely come a long way since the Chamber of Secrets.
Either that or they just didn't overuse it.
No, I think it was just emerging technology.
Yeah.
Emerging technology. And keep in mind that you had the turnaround as well.
Yeah.
Well, one of my foibles with the last movie was corrected in this one. Because I don't know if you remember me saying it's funny how they're listening to music from 8 years in the future, like indie muggle music.
Yeah.
This time they don't do that. There is a scene where they're celebrating the win and there is sort of, I suppose you could call it just ambient teenage music.
Yeah.
But it's instrumental, it's not recognisable as a contemporary song, and there's no muggles singing, so yeah, they managed to capture the atmosphere they're going for by playing the Arctic Monkeys without actually playing the Arctic Monkeys, and it's good that they fixed that, I think, because it makes it a bit more timeless in the doing.
Yeah.
I like the colour scheme during the cave scene, because it's almost black and white, but it's not. Which makes the flames more vivid when Dumbledore burns shit down, but also makes the scene feel more serious and cold and tepid.
Yeah, it's a good contrast.
Well, it's not, that's the problem, but no, that's a joke, it was good.
Yeah.
Do you think the film was received appropriately at the time?
I would assume so. It's Harry Potter. It would have done as Harry Potter does.
None of them flopped. I'm just going to look this up. It had a budget of 250 million, so 2.5 Bicentennial Man if you're aware of our metric. But It made 934.3 million, which if you compare it to Order of the Phoenix, yeah, not 950. It only made 8 million less than its predecessor.
Ah.
I mean, that's good consistency right there.
It is. It is. Mind you, the films would have had a pretty solid fan base by now.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is like 10 years into Pottermania, like big time Pottermania.
Yep.
Although they missed a huge opportunity in this movie. They could have made the whole movie just 2 hours of Jim Broadbent and Robbie Coltrane getting drunk, and it would have been improved in the process.
I'd have gone to see it.
I would have done. But imagine the conversations they would have had. It would have been like a Tarantino movie, but even better. You know, you would have had Kevin Smith levels of dialogue between the two.
Yeah.
I love that scene with the Felix Felicis and Harry sitting in on them, like singing, drinking songs and chatting shit and obviously having too much to drink. I love that scene.
It's a good scene.
Yeah, very atmospheric as well, and it sort of makes you sad at the end of the movie when you know they have to leave Hogwarts to go and capture the 7 Dragon Balls or whatever it is they need to do. And, you know, you won't get all the fun whimsy of Hogwarts anymore.
Yes, this is true.
Because the world ain't so innocent. You know, Wizard Hitler is out there trying to conquer one country and that's it. Because apparently the rest of the world doesn't give a shit and he's unambitious.
That's the scope of his ambition.
Yeah, he's a bit shit, really.
Yeah.
Voldemort doesn't appear in this movie once, and it's actually better for it.
Well, he appears in like a flashback or some kind of vision.
Yeah, as a kid, and that works well because you do going into his origins and the guys who they get to play him.
You see Wraith Fiennes for about a frame.
And that's all you need of Ralph Fiennes, to be honest. As we established, less is more with Voldemort. He's better when he's this sinister presence behind the curtain, causing trouble for people, than when he's a goofy supervillain doing key blasts and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that the absence of Voldemort, while still keeping him as this presence, like you see the Death Eaters try and fail to penetrate the shield. I like how they were just there on a whim, like, oh no, maybe they forgot to put it up tonight.
Stranger things have happened.
Well, yeah, it's on Netflix, you can watch it anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had a big midnight screening, as these movies did. Approval rating of 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way.
Cool.
With 71% critics' consensus. This is what it says on Wikipedia, actually. I'm going to go on the actual Rotten Tomatoes to see if that's changed. Audience score 78 on Rotten Tomatoes and 84% for critics. So Funnily enough, I felt like this would be one that the critics would prefer to the audience, even though it's not by much.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing, which is interesting because that makes it the exact opposite of Deathly Hallows Part 1. Speaking of which, we are going to be doing Deathly Hallows Part 2, even though it's just outside our time period, because it's the second half of the story. You can't do the first half without doing the second.
We've agreed on a 2/3 rule with franchises. As long as at least 2/3 of a franchise takes place within our time period, we can cover the lot.
So yeah, World's End can happen if we decide to do the Cornetto trilogy.
Which we will, let us be honest.
Love those movies. Yeah, we've got to do it.
Yeah.
But we're going to do something different. We've decided that you shouldn't have to buy 2 tickets to see the one story, so we're going to do Part 1 and Part 2 in what may very well be a bump-length video, I don't know, but we're going to do it all in one because you deserve it.
Yeah.
And also, the quicker we get Potter out of the way, the quicker we can move on to other fun movies of the time.
Yeah, that aren't by authors that make me feel bad for covering them.
Yeah, I feel that. But hey, any closing remarks on the movie? What would you like to say to sum up?
It was a very good movie visually. Not all of the details made as much sense as they could have, like him leaving the newspaper. And, but the use
Dumb
of,
Harry is dumb.
The use of symbolism, juxtapositions, and just the way the sets are designed is great as ever.
And Jim Broadbent is always a win?
Yep, Jim Broadbent is, to quote Cinema Wins, always a win.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know that they coined that phrase. I thought it was just something that people said.
Well, it may well be something people said, but Cinema Wins says it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, we're more on the Cinema Wins side of the critic spectrum than the Cinema Sins side, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, it's just better, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we review some right tosh, but we at least find something to enjoy about movies most of the time.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if I were to sum up, it's like a loyal robot, very well made, does its job well, and it's got a bit of charm. It's like C-3PO.
It's actually quite a good analogy.
Thank you. I do my best. Which surprises a lot of people, actually.
Which is remarkable when you think about it.
We are chugging on in to Frasier February.
Yeah, next week I believe is Bedazzled. Was going to be Encino Man, but it's not available on any streaming service that we have access to. And it's not even on Prime Video.
Wait, we're not reviewing the Kelsey Grammer popular TV show? You've misled me!
No, Brendan Fraser.
Oh, we love us some Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, that guy, in a very real sense, was the 90s and early 2000s.
He's the hero we both need and deserve. And he's been through some pretty hard times, hasn't he, in the last 10 years or so. And he's, his career, he's not been in many movies. His most emblematic movies have been the Nut Job movies, which I've never seen.
And by all accounts, he's a really great guy. So we want to throw some love his way on this channel.
I mean, I'm not informed enough to say whether the Nut Job's good or bad, but I just feel like he deserves better. He should be in a lot of movies because he's got a lovely personality. He's just good in everything he's in, and I like seeing him on our screens. And obviously, we grew up watching a lot of his movies. You know, you've got your George of the Jungle, The Mummy, which we've already covered, so we might get around to Mummy too. Many. It's such a shame that he isn't in more movies, to be honest.
But I believe next week it's Bedazzled.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen Bedazzled before. Is that with Liz Hurley?
Yeah.
Yeah. I am slightly aware of this movie, but I don't think I've watched it.
I've watched it several times, but not for a long time.
Also, we did promise you Encino Man in the past, and we will get around to that. We're just procuring copies of that movie because I don't know. Are they particularly ashamed of it? Because I can't find a copy of that movie on any streaming service anywhere.
No, it's like it's gone into the memory hole.
Yeah, and yet they're hoarding enough of it to not let it go on YouTube without being taken down. But at the same time, they won't show it to anybody for a streaming service. It's a bizarre phenomenon.
Yeah.
Because we did check YouTube. I mean, we're a lot like Orlando Bloom. We want to resort to piracy as a last resort.
I think what you meant is we don't want to resort to piracy if we can avoid it.
Cover our tracks, Ollie. Yeah, so join us next week for Bedazzled, and until then, have a Harry Potter-y day. I don't know. That sounds
Or
fun.
don't. We're not your boss.
Yeah. Until then, have a nice day. Even though there will be more time... Yeah, subscribe if you want. There will be more time elapsing than a day, but oh well.
Yeah. See you soon.
See you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.